Okay, great. Okay. It's been a minute and I'm never very good at all of these words anyway. So it is 4:59. I'm gonna wait a minute. I'm gonna wait 1 minute. Maybe Lori. We're just waiting to see if Lori pops in. I will write down 5 p.m. start. And okay. I will call this meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. Woodland Hills City Community Development Committee meeting, January 12th, 2026. It's 5 p.m. We have in attendance myself as the committee chair, Kirsten Thompson, and committee members Severin Johnson and Brandy Johns, and our city council liaison, Carrie Malkovich, and Lori should pop in at some point in this meeting, so we'll put her attendance, note her attendance, and absent is Chloe. And we welcome Daniel Jensen on our Zoom call. I sent around the meeting minutes from our last meeting held on November 17th, 2025. We need to approve those minutes. Well, maybe we, okay, wait. Yeah. Severin, did you have a chance to review those minutes from our last?
I don't remember getting them.
Okay.
That doesn't mean I didn't get them.
Okay, maybe we'll wait for Lori to do that and we can just go into discussing strategic plan. I mean, we'll do the, just remind me to do that before we adjourn because I don't want to forget. Okay, Daniel, so today we need to come up with our plan for getting this strategic plan draft over to the council, or planning commission and council. And I'm hoping this is something that isn't more than like a 3-month process. I don't want it to drag on. We've already taken a lot of time with the general plan. I'm really trying to be conscious of how much we have left budget-wise and how much that's going to get taken up with revisions by the planning commission and city council. And so I think we need to be really careful about our timelines. We understand that the strategic plan is the step-by-step goals to then achieve the long-term goals of the general plan. Now, if Daniel, if he could just maybe explain to us maybe what some other cities have done, and then Carrie, if you want to share maybe what you had in mind, strategic plan wise, and then we can kind of decide what framework, what we're looking at moving forward, and then we can really start getting pen to paper and get this moving forward.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Kirsten. So I pulled up some examples from other cities here in Utah to kind of illustrate how other communities are approaching a strategic plan. And I found 3 that I really like because they show different approaches to the strategic plan and how Woodland Hills could consider moving ahead here. So this first one is Payson City. And Payson City is really similar to what Woodland Hills has already done for their general plan. So what Payson City did is they created an implementation matrix, and their general plan itself in the body of the general plan where they have goals only has goals and objectives. And then in their strategic plan, they went a step further and took those objectives and turned them into strategies or action items. Now, our general plan draft we already put together for Woodland Hills has all three tiers in it. So in theory, you could call the general plan that's already put together for Woodland Hills as the goals section being the strategic plan portion of the general plan. So that's one way to do it is you'd have goals, objectives, strategies, or here they call it strategies and action items, with those action items being the things that you want the community to work on. I should have started here, but really the strategic plan is the more immediate goals of the general plan, while a general plan looks at long range visioning, a 20 to 30 year timeline, big picture planning. A strategic plan is more now focused with what do we want to do the next year or two up to 5 years. So it's sometimes called a 3 to 5 year strategic plan. Often though, you're looking at what are your immediate focuses of the next 1 to 2 years. So in Payson, all they did is they broke it down into action items within the categories, just like you see in the Woodland Hills plan. And the Woodland Hills plan is just within the chapter itself. So that's all Payson did. Then opposite end of the spectrum, we have Washington City. What they did for their strategic plan is they focused more on big picture visioning, not so much their actual strategies. So they have a mission, vision, values, and what they emphasize. And these are more qualitative than quantitative goals. So these are things about maintaining that small town look and feel, what makes their community and why it is important to them. And they don't delineate any action items or any specific goals in their strategic plan. It's just kind of like a mission statement type document. Then in the middle, which I think as I try to wrap my head around the different discussions we've had and what's in the RFP, I think it's kind of right here in the middle. This is Riverton Cities. So what they've done is they've said, here's our vision, here's our mission, here are our core values. And then out of that whole general plan, here's where we want to focus. So I was thinking this is probably most in line with what Woodland Hills had in mind, that we would take that general plan that we put together. It's a really long document, it's 100+ pages with lots and lots of goals and action items in it. And we say, out of all of these things that we discussed, that we outlined, here are our strategic priorities. Here are the 8 to 12 things that are most important, or maybe 6 to 12 things that are most important where we think the city should be focusing in the next few years. And here's how we go about doing it. So another common thing that I didn't see in these examples, I see it more in the really large cities. Provo actually doesn't have a strategic plan. Ogden does. And what you see in those large cities is a little bit more complex implementation matrix. So I went ahead and took the general plan draft that we did. All this is right here is I dropped it in AI. That's it. This is just ChatGPT in our business account. Where I dropped the PDF and I said, hey, ChatGPT, what do you view as the most important things, and can you make an implementation matrix? And spent a little bit more than that. But the idea here being, this is kind of what do we want to call it? Not quite a template, but like I don't know, something to show, right? What we could be looking at. But you have the goals right here, just like you'd see in Riverton City. Like here's the element, here is the objective, here's our actual action item. Of the goals that we determined our priorities, where we want to focus in the next 1 to 3 years, and what party would be responsible for implementing these action items, if they would need to partner with some outside agency, individual, consultant, who that could be, what the timeline looks like. AI just kind of threw these years out here, but maybe it's a 12-month timeline, maybe it's a 3-year timeline. I don't know that you put years on like this. You probably, however you want to do it. if outside funding's needed. This would be helpful for council to see as they go into the budget season, what kind of demands there would be in order to achieve the strategic goals in the general plan, right? Like if the city needs to apply for some grant or use general funds or whatever it's going to be to fund that. And then the KPI, that's a key performance indicator. If you wanted, you could get a little bit more granular and say, what are the performance indicators that show that we have achieved the goal we wanted to achieve? So this is one way of many to set up an implementation matrix that would get a little bit more specific than what we've seen in some of these other communities. So I think that kind of shows like the implementation matrix would be maybe the most specific, and then this Washington County one would be obviously the least specific, and then really anywhere in between. We can set it up however the city would like. And yeah, so I just want to make sure that whatever we do is something that's going to be useful to the city and in line with what the city would find helpful and usable and not fluffy and not something that just sits on a shelf. So I think whatever feedback you have would be helpful, and that's kind of where I'm at. So any comments, or Carrie, did you have?
That's
I know
helpful, so that we
yeah.
at least have an idea of what maybe some other cities have done near us, like Payson, Riverton. I don't know, Lori,
And
probably
Washington
missed some of
City
those.
is
Yeah, Washington City, and just kind of the range of what these have looked like in other cities. It was helpful for me. So Carrie, you
Yeah.
wrote some of this, the request for proposal
Yeah.
and stuff.
I read the
before
the
most of this
grant.
got involved. Yeah, the
And
grant. So help us
one of the
understand
things
what
that
you
we
had in
wanted
mind.
to do is, because we are a growing city and we've had our general plan, and although we look at it occasionally, we're not a high growth city. So it's not one that everybody's looking at every single day. Are we really in line with our general plan? And so part of the attempt was to say, here's our general plan. We've updated it. It has some new things. There's some new dynamics in from the past, but how can we make it really a living document? And it's because it's a long-term goal. So the only thing to keep in mind is that we make short-term goals that lead us along the path of the long-term goal. And so the strategic plan is that. And where the general plan really is to help navigate the development of the community overall under the planning commission, who looks at things first. I mean, ultimately the council makes the decisions, but they look at things first and they use that as their guideline. So the strategic plan would be for the council to continue in short-term goals to make sure we stay on that path. And that if anything needs updated or we need to tweak something along the way, we would know sooner than waiting for the next rewrite of the general plan. And so I really like that you looked into those 3 other cities and then put our draft through AI to kind of help narrow down some things. That matrix, I think, is important. Payson would have a lot of the same, just because we're all in the same South County, they probably have some similarities, but they're also a growing city. And that's one of the things that I know as they redid their general plans and they hired some really big companies to come in and rebrand their whole city, because they're trying to make sure that they have the economic base that they want as they grow to the west and to the south. And so theirs was heavy with a lot of economic development, not just community development. We don't necessarily have that at this point of time and might not ever. But it would be good to look at theirs for what are they trying to bring to the South County and what are they trying to do short term, so that we would be also saying, oh, if they're trying to attract this, what do we need to be prepared for? Washington City is also a growing city. It's a suburb of St. George, and they're growing so fast they can't keep up with anything. But they are, you know, they've been a smaller city to go forward with their plan. So it'd be worthwhile to look at theirs. But again, it's probably heavily focused on economic development. Riverton has been more of a rural area for a long time, Riverton and Harriman. And now, as the Salt Lake Valley has grown out, they're now becoming a hotspot for all sorts of stuff. And those farmlands are going away. But I don't know how much their plan would have included economic development, or if they're focused more on residential because they have a lot of land that is being turned into housing on both Riverton and Harriman. But I think it would be great for us to look at all three examples, look to say, here's our general plan, long-term goals, but what are those short-term goals and what matrix do we need to make sure that we keep in step with those so that our decisions are made. Citizens don't want us to make willy-nilly decisions. They want us to know that it's in line with what we're thinking and yet very thoughtful in what we're doing and in the specifics of whatever it is that comes before us. And that's where the boundaries, that's why we set these boundaries to say, every council meeting, we should be looking at the strategic plan and or at least the goals and saying, what does this fit under? Anything that comes to us, which of these goals does that fit under? And if it fits under one of those, how are we going to proceed going forward? Because then it aligns the general plan with our monthly meetings. Instead of, like I said, instead of just getting to the end and say, did we really accomplish that? Did we really do this? Like on the past general plan, a lot of people never even really read it, except for the planning commission. A lot of people in town didn't, but if we can more closely associate our everyday decisions or our every month decisions based on those metrics, that ties our citizens who are asking us stuff back to the general plan, which we originally got because of the surveys, besides state statute, the surveys of what they wanted. So it kind of makes a full circle. I don't know if that makes sense, but is that what you're seeing, Daniel?
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from you is that the implementation matrix is really important. Like that's something that's really wanted, right? Now, my question with that is, would we want to go through each of the goals in the general plan and see on all of them? Are there like little micro steps that we'd want to break down that strategy into further implementation, action items, KPIs, that sort of thing? Or is the committee thinking we should really hone in on 6 to 12 for, I mean, that's a number out of a hat, right? But whatever our priorities are, go through the general plan. And some of the things in the general plan are things that the city's already doing no matter what. Some of them are more maybe long range visioning where this council isn't going to jump on it tomorrow. But I could see either way. I could see you saying, hey, let's go through each of those goals and see, are there strategies further broken down that we want to put as goals for the next 6 to 12 months or 1 to 3 years, or maybe we want to focus so it's not so overwhelming on 6 to 12. What are your thoughts?
Well, and how would this function for the council and making it something they can revisit? Like if we're only talking a year or two, how does it become like a live document for them to continue to be a resource for them longer term, short-term goals, but a year is not a very long time.
Right. So an implementation matrix would be something that could be updated annually, where you could go through, cross off, or check off the ones you did, go back to the general plan and say, okay, we completed these 3 things this year. What are 3 more we want to add to the list to be working on over the next year or two, right? Also with the matrix, a responsible party would be designated. And so perhaps it's, hey, Public Works, you knocked off these 2 tasks. Great. What are the next steps, right? And you can go back to your general plan goals and look at those and pull out the next things to be working on. So I think
I
both
think
by
too-
responsible party and by the process. Yeah.
Yeah, I think too, the council will tweak whatever we do, right? Because we'll get input from the staff on what the reality of the situation is. But I think it would be beneficial to have that long-term, 5 years. And okay, this is what we think the priorities are for year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And kind of based on what you just said, some are long-term, some are short-term, and put them in some sort of an order with a way that we can check off if they've been done. You know, that there is somebody accountable to say, are we doing this? If it's the mayor, if it's a staff member, whatever, to say, okay, yeah, we have completed this in year 1. Do we want to move one of the year 2s up? Or do we want to finish on all of the year 1s? And I think that they'll be able to tweak what they want, but based on your understanding and going through this process so far, I think you do have a good feel for what the priorities of the city is based on the citizen feedback and all the feedback you have done in this committee.
Daniel, do you feel like that is a possible framework of doing this in every year for the next 5 years is a section per se, and then the goals as they're outlined in the general plan of kind of what they have in mind can then be put into those different years to just give the council a draft that they can obviously move around, but of priorities, but to then to like what Carrie's saying to no, well, in the next year these are goals, not that they're all not important, or maybe some are more long-term in nature, but I don't know, to give a little bit of a timeline, but although it seems like some of them are just kind of ongoing things, so
Right, you wouldn't put
I don't
everything
know.
in there. You don't have to put every single thing from the general plan in the strategic plan. That's not the purpose. It is the ones that have action items associated with
Like the
them.
easiest example is the trail study.
Right,
Like that's obviously a priority for the city, it's a priority for the residents, it's surveyed that's like number 1. So what's the steps for that?
right.
Is that like, I guess what we put strategic plan, draft?
Well, and that could be because it's out of our hands, right? It is with the Trail Study Committee and Parks and Rec.
And we
So-
say that, this
so,
is the
uh-huh,
responsibility of this committee, this is
And
the
we say,
timeline.
but we have a placeholder for next year because as we talk with Jeremy and he says, oh, well, this is the study year. Next year, we have to work on buying the easements up. So that would be something the council would have to do. We'd have to budget for that. Remember, our budget goes July 1st to July 1st. So if we're now in this last 6 months of this year's cycle of budget, so if they've been working on that, we asked Jeremy, do we have budget money to buy up the rest of the easements for that? Or is that the second year term? Is that the goal for the second year? And then once we buy those easements, then what's the third? And we ask him, what are those steps?
Okay, so that's a
put in
good
there.
question. Could we just, maybe designate some of these goals? Obviously, everybody reports to the council, but to the different councils or commissions that would be responsible for them, trails committee or whatever. And then, maybe in the coming weeks, we tell them just what you said, provide the steps that will live in the strategic plan of
For the next 5 years.
next 5 years, and then
Because
compile
usually
it in
you do
that
the
way.
update of the general
So
plan
that-
every 5 years.
I don't want to be the one that's outlining all those steps,
no.
because I don't know.
We just
all
have
of
to
that.
ask them to give it to us. And so we look at those priorities that we have from the general plan, and then we say designate, okay, Ted, what do you see for public works? What is the 5-year goals? We go to Parks and Trails. Okay, what is the 5-year plan on that trail just for Woodland Hills Drive? What is the priorities for the park? Are we really putting in a pickleball court? Whatever, right? And so out of all of those priorities that we put into that general plan, which ones are actionable that need to have steps taken? We ask those people to give us their timelines. And then as we do that groundwork, the council will be able to decide what their time frame is in completing those and what the steps are needed.
So
I mean,
here's,
is there a budgetary item? Is there another voting item that we have to take place? Is there a public hearing about any of this? You know, those are the kinds of things you don't want to get behind the eight ball on, that you don't even, oh my gosh, we were supposed to have this, this, and this in place before we do this. You know, that's why we put this in place.
so here's the problem I foresee. Right now, our general plan draft is being reviewed and there's going to be changes.
Absolutely.
So how do we strategize based on strategies that are not concrete?
I don't think that the overall arching things will change. It will be more of the intricate details that will be changed. You know, there'll be, oh, did you know that this is in conflict with this? Or we need to add some wordage here. I don't think specific things that are big are going to be taken out. And some of them,
For sure.
some of them are by state statute that we have to have in there. So for sure, those things won't come out. We're already going down some paths of some things that the council has voted on, like this study of the trail on Woodland Hills Drive. The county's already gone through its steps of connecting the Nebo Parkway Trail system. So those are things that are already in motion. And there's probably other things. Ted would know which things are in motion by Public Works. And whether the budget has been allocated for those things or not yet, he knows, you know, oh, we're doing this road study and we're doing this with the water system and we're doing this. This gives us a little bit more foresight on allocating the funds and resources.
Feel free to disagree.
Yeah.
Could we, Daniel, reach out to the different committees, council members, you know, people that you've been meeting with regularly over this last year or more? Based on the different sections of the general plan, and ask them, you know, on the trails section, so you reach out to the trails committee or the study people or both. What are your 5-year goals? And then we just collect all of those. We give them 45 days to come back with their 5-year plan that's in relation to the general plan, or at least that topic. If it's land use, the 5-year plan in relation to land use, and then just compile all of that into a strategic plan. Is that? I'm trying to figure out how we're supposed to be getting everybody else's input and then also put this together without this taking another 2 years. So
And without it being so
How to
in
get
depth.
maybe.
yeah, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I see a couple different ways this could work. We could do it that way, a little bit more static. That would be similar to Riverton's. So here, I'll just share just so.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I don't necessarily either want this to be something that's not a living document. I don't know. I guess I'm just,
Right. So we could do it
I
like
don't
this
really
where
understand the step forward
where
of what we're
it's-
supposed to be doing here.
right. So we could do it like this where it's written out and it's going to stay here, right? Like these are the ones. Another way I was thinking of doing this is I could put together, so I already kind of have right here. So I could put together just like the intro to what the strategic plan is and why it's important and how to go about it. And I could put this in the same format as the rest of the general plan. So it goes through, it goes through InDesign and it matches the rest of the general plan. But then the implementation matrix itself, I could just have as an Excel file. That would be really easy to adjust. And that could be changed by anyone at any time, right? So if you want it more living and breathing like that, I think that's probably the best way to go is an Excel file. We put the current iteration as a copy paste in the general plan, like in the appendix that has the strategic plan as a snapshot in time, but it would be in an Excel file that would just be super easy to modify. I think either way is fine. Communities go either direction, so it just depends. Do you want something that is a snapshot that looks really professional where we try to articulate our 5-year goals, or do we want to have something where perhaps I think maybe the easiest way to go about it would be I think just for the sake of ease, if I went through the goals, I took a stab at what looks like maybe the most important and actionable items. I pulled that out. And I went to each of the committees and I said, based on the element that touches your department or your committee, here are some of the things that stood out to me. Here are some goals that I think might be the right thing. Tell me what you think, right? Because I think if I say, hey, you go do the work and come back to me, it's going to be a challenge to get done. I don't want to be dictating at all what people should do, but I think if I could step in and have at least some sort of a framework and I could say, here's kind of what I was thinking, take it, massage it, strike things out, add things that I missed, maybe that's probably the easiest, right? To give a starting off point.
I think that's great.
Yeah, I think
I'm
that's
good
a
with
good
either
one.
one.
Yeah,
Because people don't have a lot of extra time, and so, yeah, and not reinventing something, and you've been breathing this and living this for a long time now, so you see what's happening, and it gives everybody an opportunity to still chime in and give their opinion, and yet that framework, I think, when they realize it's from the document, then it makes it a little bit easier. Because the council will be, after the planning commission is done with the general plan, then the council gets to see both your input and the planning commission's input. It's not one or the other. We'll see them both side by side. And then we could either even change it more, or we could blend your two, or we can say we like this one or we like that one. And so that will be heavy on our mind too. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to have this strategic plan model in place, is so that everything will be fresh, and then look at that. Yep, that looks like our goals. That's good. We can then just tweak it where it needs to be, but at least it's in a framework that we're not starting at ground zero again and have to rethink it all, because we have a lot of other assignments.
What would this committee say is the audience for this? Is this something that's meant to be published publicly so that residents kind of see what the city's roadmap is and what the city's doing for them per
I
se?
think they will see it.
Or is it for the council to use as a working file? But
It's
I don't
both.
see a working file being.
I think that the
public.
residents will see it and probably never look at it again, but I think my vision would be that the council refers back to it as they're making
Yeah,
decisions.
but I think the internal document of the Excel sheet would be the councils and the staff that are looking at that. But then we would have a version that is just a more of the step-by-step overview that would be on the website, that anyone who looked at it would see it.
And not with so much detail,
Right.
because I think
More of a
people can't
big picture.
handle so much detail and
Well, yeah,
timelines.
that's the thing. We don't need another 20-page document to go along with our 100-page general plan. So,
Exactly, more simplified,
right.
just a very high level.
Well, and it has a different purpose. The general plan and the strategic plan, although they have the same goals in mind, it's a different purpose.
So Daniel, does any of this feel like a clear step forward? Do you feel like it sounds like you're taking on quite a bit of now reaching out or developing some drafts and reaching out and coordinating? Is there, what can the council do to support this effort?
And I think that's fine. I mean, there's
Sorry.
budget for me to do that. So, and what I'm hearing is perhaps the route of the Excel file seems like what people would want, right? That way council can take ownership of it and modify it very easily at their own discretion in coming years. I like the idea of having an Excel sheet that has maybe a few more columns than what we put in the general plan itself, or the strategic plan that's like attached to the general plan. The strategic plan will be in the appendix of the general plan. So it will be a published document that the public can access. So I like that idea of, we put a little bit more polished looking one there that maybe doesn't have quite all the columns that the Excel file has. I think that's fine. And yeah, I think that will work for me to take a stab at it first and say, hey, committee, I took a shot.
Based on the
add
general
what I missed.
plan,
Yeah,
or
based on
just the
general
talks that
plan.
you've had, you know, there's the Charles study, you know that there's, you know,
Yep.
whatever other priorities that the city has right now, and then work on who's responsible for that, their input, and putting that all together into next steps.
Yeah, and I think the best way for me to work with you guys would be I'll provide you a draft and I can pull all the pages of those goals from the general plan into one document so it's a lot smaller. And I would say take my draft, take the goals, go through the goals, identify the things that look the most important to you and make sure that they're in the strategic plan draft, the draft matrix that I put together, right? And then from there, I guess probably maybe simultaneously, should I reach out to the Parks and Trails Committee, to Wayne, to Ted, to other staff members, or should I wait till you guys review the matrix, or how do we want to do timing here?
I would like those conversations to start sooner than later, just because the more we push off, then the longer this takes.
Mhm.
So I think it's okay that while this is all in a brainstorm, that we collect all of the ideas, together at the same time, and then we can compile and finalize. Does that feel okay?
I think that sounds like a really good idea.
I don't want you to have to wait for us, I guess is what I'm saying.
Mhm.
That all being said, when should we meet again? Because it sounds like we can just maybe review in our own time in between, or what does our next steps look like? Do you need 6 weeks? Do you need 4 weeks? Do you need?
We could probably still shoot for a month from now again. Just keep it on that same cadence. We have a holiday in there in February. I don't,
President's Day.
yeah.
We were typically meeting on the last
It would have been
Monday
the
of the
23rd.
month, which would put us on the 23rd, which might be ideal anyway with the holiday, and that actually does give you 6 weeks.
Yeah, let's do the 23rd.
Does that, but I want this to be, I don't want us to have crickets in between the 6 weeks. Like, let's make sure that we're
Mhm.
email, reviewing, responding, communicating in that 6 weeks so that we can, really make some progress at 6 weeks, whether that's finalizing or being close to finalizing. Based on also, I know that the general plan, those strategies are changing, and so we've got to be flexible with that also. So with all of that in mind, though, I hope that we're not wasting time, because that's what I'm getting. So, okay, well, that sounds good to me. Does everybody else feel comfortable with that plan?
Yeah.
Feel like we understand that plan, the purpose of it, and make sure all parties are heard and involved. I don't think that's anything we need to vote on, but we did skip, Lori, the approval of the meeting minutes from the last meeting. I did send those out a few weeks ago, back in whenever I sent the agenda for this one.
You know what it was, because I could not find it.
No.
We do need to approve them. So, community development, did
I'll
you?
forward it one more time.
So it was January 9th is when you sent them out.
I think it was December 15th.
Oh, well, I have some from the 9th also. Maybe that was for our other
They
meeting.
were attachments. One was the agenda for the upcoming meeting, and one was the meeting minutes from November 17th. I'd give you guys a few minutes to try to find that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, while you guys are looking at that, that was the only thing, was just kind of have a plan moving forward. So we will meet next on February 23rd.
There is a slight.
5 p.m. here at the city. The goal, I'm going to say, will be to review input and framework of the strategic plan.
So by then, you will have emailed it to us and let us know, and then we can be prepared, because sometimes.
Or even email back your comments.
Yeah.
Not that any decisions are being made by email, but feel free to give an opinion. That doesn't mean that he's gonna then change the document, but feel free to give an opinion or ask questions, and then we can still review those in our public meeting, but don't be afraid to ask questions via email. Okay. Did we see the minutes?
Yeah. Mhm. They're kind of short.
I found the one that's on,
Okay.
but I can't open it.
Oh, okay. Well,
So I'll open it.
Do we need to approve them?
yes,
Vote, or what do you say?
motion
Motion
to approve.
to approve the minutes from last month?
Do we have a second?
I second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Lori was the first and Brandy was I always forget to write this down and then I have to go back and rewatch the meeting. Favor. Okay, well, we are free to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Severin. Oh, all in favor?
Hi.
Motion to adjourn.
Yay.
Brandy, you were the second, right?
No. did you-
No, sorry, I mean Lori. Lori, you were the second on the adjourning. And then I'm gonna take these and try to get these notes done tonight. So I don't
Bye,
forget.
everyone.
Okay, thank you,
thanks.
Daniel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
Perfect.
Man, shortest meeting yet.
Yeah.
The sun.
Yeah.
You have to go turn the off button.
Oh,
There. Is it still recording? I think it's just end the meeting and then you can tell.
How are you?
Good. You can tell Jody that we ended so that she knows to do whatever she has to do.
Thanks, guys. We're so close. Yeah.
Did you find it?
How's the new mayor?
I thought I just checked really fast. You guys are done early.
Give me a week.
Okay.
Ask me again in a week and I'll let you know if I'm overwhelmed.
Okay.
I have Jody though, so I'm good. Jody, Lee, and.
Oh, just
Take
stop.
care of all the details.
Oh, I did just press stop. I wasn't sure I was supposed to email it to you.
No. It didn't stop recording though.
I know.
So we were looking at your notes.
So I just end
Uh-huh.
and then just end
And then you
meeting?